Hello and welcome. Today I'll be showing you how I made my staff from Frieren Beyond Journeys end. Using two large bowls, one slightly smaller than the other, I traced two identical circles onto a 1-inch insulation foam board, sketching out the rough design of the staff's head. Once that was done and I was satisfied with the look, I cut it out with a box cutter and glued the two shapes together using wood glue. Using a box cutter, I did shape down the sides to give it more of a dimensional look rather than a flat. With a sandpaper bit on a rotary tool, I smoothed out uneven lines and shaped the staff a bit more. You can use regular sandpaper. The rotary tool just makes it faster. I also did go in with regular sandpaper, as you can see here, just to give it a little bit extra smooth. So I like to make my props a little stronger, so I covered them in layers of Elmers glue or wood glue, depending on what I have available. I used both for this project, just to give it a little extra strength and durability. There are a lot of layers and a lot of time for this. For the prongs that keep in the centerpiece, I bought some small dowels from the dollar store. Pretty much put them where I wanted them, shove them into the insulation foam, and then mark where I was going to cut them using my centerpiece, securing them with wood glue on the ends and just shoving them into the foam where previously. I like the size of my centerpiece, so I remade it using two pieces of 6mm craft foam. You can get it pretty easy anywhere on Amazon or any craft store, and just using the original piece, traced it out, and then made little cut into the foam so the dowels would stick in there a lot nicer, cutting them out with an X-Acto blade, not going all the way through the foam. I attached that using contact cement on both sides of the dowels as well as on the foam itself, and lined it up, as you can see here. When you're dealing with contact cement or installation foam, please use hair protection as well as a respirator. Traced and cut out the shape of the connector piece that I'm using to connect the staff head to the staff pole, sandwiching the female connector for the PVC pipe in between the two layers, covering it in wood filler to fill any gaps or any holes that I have accidentally created or just naturally created, and then sanding that all down so it's a nice smooth finish before covering that in copious amounts of layers of glue just to give it more strength and durability. Using contact cement, I added a layer onto both the connector piece and the staff's head, marking where I wanted it to go beforehand, letting it dry completely, and then attaching the two pieces together. For the orb, I used a clear acrylic bowl and cut it into size I wanted it with a rotary tool. Be very careful if you do end up using this method. With the seams of the bowl and the inner circle, I just took a 1/2-inch strip of foam that is 6mm thickness and pinned it to the inner circle so that you wouldn't see any rough seams and the bowl wouldn't be too sharp in the event that you accidentally touch it. I did paint the inside of the bowl with a red using multiple layers just so it was more opaque. For the rings that come onto the ends of the staff, I used a little shot glass because I like the size of them. You can buy things, but I tend to use more household items to make the shape I want, just as if it's more budget friendly. I traced it out using the larger side because that's the size I wanted. Cut them out with a box cutter, and then I just made a little hole in the center to make it easier to slide over the I stuck two donuts together to make one solid one with contact cement. Once they were both put together and dried and strong, I did go over them with a Dremel just to smooth out any rough edges and give it more of a circle shape before covering it in layers of glue once again. To get them to the pole, I did cover both sides of the donut and the pole with a layer of contact cement, and then took a flat rectangle piece of foam to slide over top, like you will see in a second here, to add more thickness to where I wanted. With the nub at the top, I just sculpted it using a thermoplastic that you heat up in boiling water or with a heat gun, and just sculpted it to the way I like before attaching with contact cement. Now, this was going to be a competition build, so I decided to go a little fancier with it. You do not have to do this, but with a 2-part epoxy resin and some silicone molds I found off of Amazon for a filigree effect, I pre-colored my pigments, the epoxy with some powdered pigments, and just kind of spread it into the silicone molds. Once again, you do not have to do this. I was just being fancy. Do whatever you want to make your pieces pop. You can also use puff paint as an alternative to stuff like this. I just like the look of it. These pieces were attached with crazy glue as well as contact cement. I do recommend crazy glue or hot glue a little bit better for this because they attached a little bit better than the contact cement. I had to fix the paint job, so using my airbrush, I did go over it with a few layers of airbrush paint, and then for the rest of the piece, I did a mix of airbrush and just brushed on some acrylic paint. You can use spray paint as well for this. Just make sure everything is covered, that you don't want to be painted that color. I did add some shadows with acrylic black paint, just dry brushing it on, and then that is the look of the staff piece before I painted it. And to make it easier, I used thin, small layers of gold airbrush paint to cover it all. Thank you for watching. I hope this actually made a little bit of sense. If it doesn't, I'm so sorry. I did lose quite a bit of film in the process of this because of a corrupted SD card. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out and I will hopefully answer it as smoothly as possible. But once again, thank you for watching, and I hope this helps you create your own stuff.